It's Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. Blowing up more boats, Lutnick on the hot seat, and maybe more people eating beef for dinner. Next on the AM Update. Blowing more holes in drug boats, the U.S. said this week it hit a vessel allegedly transporting drugs in the Eastern Pacific, killing 2 people and leaving 1 survivor in the second such strike in the past 4 days. Citing intelligence, U.S. Southern Command said this week the vessel was transiting along a known narco-trafficking route in the Eastern Pacific and was engaged in narco-trafficking operations. SOCOM also said 2 narco-terrorists were killed and 1 survived the attack. During his big interview on Fox this week, President Trump went more in-depth on what he's trying to accomplish with attacking all of these narco-terrorists.
Hear about it, you solve that problem. I don't get any credit for anything. I mean, I do these things. You would say I've done a great job at the border, right? Nobody coming in. We have a strong border. Drugs are way down. You know, by knocking out those boats, we have dropped drugs, fentanyl, about 33%. And now we're going to start on land. We had to do the boats first because they would go immediately to the boats. If you hit them on land, they go to the boats. So we do the boats first. Now there are no boats. Now we're going to hit them on land. We're going to hit them very hard on land. We've knocked down drugs. Every one of those boats, it's nasty, but every one of those boats that shot down in the seas, you've been watching it, we saved 25,000 American lives. So we've done a great job.
Seems like a long time ago, but you'll recall that was the issue, the outrage du jour, the pearl clutching of the day for a while, was whether or not the United States could actually blow up drug boats. That, of course, narrative completely exploded in the media's faces, so they moved on to other things like rioting in Minneapolis. But that wasn't that long ago where it was a big scandal that we were blowing up narco-terrorists. Now it just seemed like another day that ends in Y. That's a good thing. Howard Lutnick, speaking of bad judgment, however, Howard Lutnick, he's our Commerce Secretary. He showed up in the Epstein files. He testified in front of a congressional panel yesterday trying to explain himself.
Lutnick, I think you understand the root of concern here. It's the way you described very emphatically your first encounter with him in his apartment, said you were disgusted, would never have any contact with him again. Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012.
So there you have it. Howard Lutnick, our Commerce Secretary, says in 2012, that was after Epstein, I think, took that sweetheart deal, so it was known he was not a good dude. Howard Lutnick says even after that, he took his family to Epstein Island. Hey, Timmy, where'd you go on vacation this summer? We went to Epstein Island. At the very least, that shows just ridiculously poor judgment from Howard Lutnick. House Speaker Mike Johnson asked if Lutnick should resign.
Mr. Speaker, Howard Lutnick had said that he had cut off ties with Jeffrey Epstein in 2005, but the documents that came out contradict that. Democrats and Thomas Massie say he should resign. Do you think that Howard Lutnick should resign?
Of course not. It's absurd. Howard Lutnick is a great Commerce Secretary. He's done an extraordinary job for the country, and Thomas Massie should stop playing political games.
Do you have any concern?
So there's a chicken wing for Thomas Massie as well from House Speaker Mike Johnson. On Polymarket, Secretary Lutnick is now favored to leave the Trump administration. He still trails FBI Director Kash Patel. 53% chance Lutnick leaves, 55% for Kash Patel. We go to this. The price of beef is out of control. President Trump recently signed an executive order to expand beef imports from Argentina as consumers face those higher prices amid supply constraints impacting the U.S. cattle industry. Trump's order implements a trade framework he reached with Argentina in November that aims to increase beef imports to help mitigate the surge in beef prices that has occurred in recent years. In 2018 and 19, ground beef prices were about $4 per pound, but began rising during the pandemic and have been above $5 a pound since June of 2023, while continuing to increase, reaching about $6.69 a pound in December. That's according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Sirloin steaks around $8.50 a pound in 2019, $11 since the summer of 2023, $14 in December per pound. Over the last year, ground beef prices up 15.5% through December, while the cost of a steak has risen almost 18% during that same time frame. Cattle ranchers have reduced their herds due to drought, wildfires affecting key ranching regions in recent years, which left the nationwide cattle inventory at its lowest level in 70 years. Some ranchers have started to slowly rebuild their herds. It takes about 2 years to raise full-grown cattle. Unfortunately, those cattle ranchers, I hate this, those cattle ranchers are getting the shaft here. And this was talked about at the time when this deal was originally struck between Javier Milei's Argentina and the United States. Hopefully it is just temporary. Hopefully the cattle ranchers, the beef industry can get back on their feet. But this is not good for them. It is good for the consumer, but it's not good for our ranchers. A new story in the New York Times finds the Republican Party is overwhelmingly beating Democrats in the fundraising race, and that Democrats are panicking ahead of the midterm elections. Now, these stories come out every single election year. Midterm, presidential election, it doesn't matter. Every single year, ever since I can remember, there's always a story about how Republicans are kicking the Democrats' butts when it comes to fundraising. Always the case. Always, always, always. And I always almost ignore them. But I'm not on this one, because this is the first time I can remember, at least in recent times, Democrats are going somewhat on the record saying they are concerned themselves about the fundraising numbers. Democrats have about $137 million for their campaigns, while Republicans have more than twice that amount, $320 million, when their debts are taken into account. According to a Democrat super PAC founder by the name of Bradley Beachhawk, quote, "Any Democrat who isn't concerned isn't serious. Yes, Democrats have momentum on our side and a wide opportunity map, but we have a glaring disadvantage in overall money. Donald Trump has 99 problems going into the midterms, but money ain't one," according to Democratic strategist Jesse Ferguson. So that's just two people going on the record, two Democrats, two strategists, people who know what to do when they have a large sum of money to spend, saying they're concerned about Democrat fundraising numbers. Speaking of Democrats trying to raise funds, Democrat Senator Dick Durbin is joining others like Republican Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and saying, heck no, not going to support the SAVE Act requiring voter ID, proof of citizenship to vote.
The SAVE Act is expected to be brought to the floor for a vote this week. What are your thoughts on that? Are you going to support the SAVE Act?
Not at all. It's a terrible idea. This notion that we want to put more obstacles in the paths of voters is just what Donald Trump wants, fewer people voting. I want every legal citizen in America to be able to vote without obstacles.
That's what the SAVE Act does. That's what it does. Senator Durbin, I want every single legal citizen in the United States to be able to vote without obstacles. That's if you're a legal citizen, you don't have any more obstacles. The only obstacle in proof of citizenship to vote is proving your citizenship. So, yeah. Didn't we all just get gold stars on our driver's license in order to fly? Gotta get that stupid gold star on your license because, yeah, you might be a terrorist. But no, nothing at all to vote. Yeah, so love that. When we come back, dispatches from Michigan. A couple flew in from a foreign country with the expressed purpose of exploiting American law. Also, the latest updates in the Nancy Guthrie case. And we hear from our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, another reminder why he was maybe the one they tried to tank in terms of his nomination for Secretary of War, where he reminds us why he was the one Democrats and some Republicans wanted to take the most. It's coming up next.
Do you plan on having the baby in Michigan? That's fine. And how are you going to pay for it? And we can move on.
That is the voice of a U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent at an airport in Michigan, in Detroit, talking to a Nigerian couple who just landed stateside. Listen to the rest of this exchange.
Do you plan on having the baby in Michigan? That's fine. And how are you going to pay for it? And we can move on.
Okay.
So answer the questions, please.
Fine.
Yes.
So if she can have a baby in Michigan,
yes.
Fine.
Okay.
If we can pay for it. But
Very
if we
good.
cannot pay for it, then we leave.
Okay, very good. Was that your intention when you guys traveled from Nigeria? You knew that. Is that right? You knew that that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, we knew it.
Okay. Were you nervous to tell me that?
Yeah, because we didn't know what.
No problem. Listen, I appreciate you telling me the
What are
truth.
they gonna do with us? You know.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to move to the next step.
That is an exchange between a Customs and Border Protection agent and a Nigerian couple. You just heard there, flew to the United States for the expressed purpose of having a child here. Meaning that child, under the current wrong and fraudulent interpretation of our laws, that person, that baby, is a U.S. citizen, meaning that they could probably stay as well. Listen, I mean, I can't even imagine being a Christian living in Nigeria, and I don't know if this couple was a Christian or not, but I can't imagine living in Nigeria. And hey, maybe some money got dropped into your lap. You're able to afford a ticket to the United States. And chances, you're a couple and you're pregnant as well. That is your golden ticket. Now, unfortunately, that's not how you should behave as a Christian. Even if you're living in Nigeria, you can't conspire to violate the just laws of another country. And my heart breaks for the Christians that are being persecuted in Nigeria. Again, I don't know if this couple is a Christian or not. I'm just using this as an example. They know that they can exploit. You heard her articulate it there. They know they probably aren't going to be able to afford a hospital stay. It doesn't matter if they can afford it or not. Hippocratic oath means that the hospital has to take them in if the baby is coming imminently. And if the baby is born here, it's a citizen here. He or she is a citizen here. Again, the empathy that we all feel for people who want to get out of their war-torn or blank hole countries, that's something that we should never lose. But the government of different countries has a very specific job to do. The government's job is not to show empathy. It's to enforce law. And borders are a part of the law. So I saw that video come up the other day. And it's not just, haha, wow, look at that. This is how the system is broken. Yeah, that is. But it's a perfect encapsulation of how empathy can be weaponized in order to basically commit civilizational suicide. Multiply that couple times millions. And that's where we are with immigration in this country. Federal Bureau of Investigation sought help from the public to identify an individual they say was armed when he tampered with the cameras at Nancy Guthrie's home before her disappearance. The mother of NBC News journalist Savannah Guthrie went missing from her home in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood of Tucson, Arizona, weeks ago. According to the FBI, she was last seen at the residence on January 31st. On Tuesday, the FBI released video and images from a security camera from the missing woman's front door. An FBI press release said the man was armed. You watch these videos, you see these still frames. It's the stuff of nightmares. This masked, we think man, gloved man, and it's like a ski mask as well. Just freaky stuff. We think probably around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Pitch black outside because of Tucson's special ordinances on light pollution. Pitch black outside. This guy just comes up to the door, takes his sweet time, tries to tamper with the camera. The FBI finally releasing this footage. They're saying it was residual data from the camera. I kind of think they've had this the whole time. Just a weird, bizarre story. The reason I haven't covered it a lot, I do feel bad for Savannah Guthrie and that entire family, obviously. Feel horrible for Nancy Guthrie, her mom. There's also a lot of missing persons cases each and every day in this country. And so I don't, as much as my heart goes out to them, I don't want to diminish other people who are missing loved ones as well. And now here's this. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth reminds us once again why perhaps he was the nomination Democrats and some squishy Republicans, sorry for redundancy, some Democrats, most Democrats, and some squishy Republicans, they wanted to tank his nomination and almost succeeded in doing so. It's because of brutal honesty like this.
Thank you. Yes. You identified several policy changes the department was implementing to actually speed up and expedite some of the production. I was wondering, what are the specific choke points that you guys have encountered when it comes to regulations, or just like what are the issues? What's the hang up in some of these production facilities? Why have we seen delays on certain projects?
A lot of the hang up has been us. So we gotta look at ourselves first. The way we do business, we've been impossible to deal with. A bad customer who year after year changes our mind about what we want or what we don't want, and then we make little small technological changes, which makes it more difficult for them to produce what they need to produce on time. So we have to fix our own house first, provide clarity, simplify the system, allow more people to access it, give that steady demand signal, which is what we're doing with munitions. I encourage folks to look at the deals we've cut recently with Raytheon, with Boeing, with other companies, Lockheed, on Patriot missiles, on THAADs, on other explosive munitions. That's groundbreaking stuff. Our department's never done that. The Deputy Secretary, Steve Feinberg, is a whiz kid on these things, putting these deals together. The companies are investing because they know we're going to be buying into the future. That's just good business. We haven't operated that way before. And then things like requirements. There's mazes of requirements that this department has traditionally put on different systems and platforms that are impossible to navigate. And by the time you navigate them, you're 5 years behind the actual technology. So we're going to companies and saying, tell us what you can do based on the parameters of what kind of capabilities we're looking for, say in Indo-PACOM or Southcom or out in Europe, and let's tailor it accordingly. So it's changes on.
Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War. And finally, air analysis, slightly acidic, mostly necessary. Aaron, why did you just highlight that very wonky question and a very wonky answer? Well, I think this, in a wonky way, actually illustrates why there were a lot of Republicans, squishy Republicans, the Tom Tillises of the world, the Joni Ernsts of the world, and basically every Democrat. I think this actually illustrates why they wanted, maybe more than any other Trump cabinet nomination, they wanted to tank this guy and almost succeeded in doing so. So yes, it's a very wonky question about, hey, what's the holdup in the defense contracting industry? Why have you had so many supply and deliverable bottlenecks? And the first thing that he said, and he went on to give a more in-depth and detailed answer, is the main problem here is not these companies, it's the Department of Defense or Department of War. Pete Hegseth, maybe because he leads the military, organizes the military, and maybe because of the nature of the military, the logistical nature of the military, the ability to turn on a dime that the military possesses, maybe more than any other department, maybe more than any other cabinet level position, the military is the fastest possible organization to change, like within 4 years. You're looking at all of the gears grinding in HHS. And despite that, I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and a lot of the people that he has hired or Trump has hired to fill our national and public health establishment, they've done some great things, but man, HHS is just like grinding gears over there. Look at any other department as well. It's just a bureaucracy. And yes, the bureaucracy exists in the military as well. I understand that. And maybe if you're in the military or have served in the military, you might have a different perspective than I do. I'm just giving you an outsider's perspective. Because what he said there, it's our fault. I think this is maybe a perfect encapsulation of why he was so feared. Number one, he does truly bring the outsider's perspective. Yes, he is a veteran. I understand that. But in terms of the upper echelons of military leadership, he is definitely an outsider. But number two, he's willing to diagnose, call out, and then, most importantly, do something to fix the problems. Whether it's physical fitness, or whether it's supply disruptions, deliverable disruptions, in terms of goods and services that defense contractors can provide. He is perfectly comfortable in his own skin, making other people very uncomfortable, and then following through. What I'm describing is someone who is smart and capable, not just one or the other. And I think that's probably one of the main reasons why Democrats, basically every Democrat, and some Republicans wanted to tank his nomination, because he represented a true status quo change in a cabinet-level position, overseeing a massive department that could actually be terraformed in relatively short order. That's going to do it for a Wednesday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.